What's up, y'all? It's Bethany here, and I hope you like my new set. I'm actually at my family's house in my sister's room, and I needed somewhere to film today, so this is gonna be the set for the day. I'm actually really excited about this conversation because we're digging into something that I think is super prevalent in our day, and it's the topic of like online bullying, trolling, hateful words, just unkind speech. That's something that has been on my mind a lot, and personally the temptation to engage in that kind of talk. And I just want to share with you in a bit like a personal story about some videos that I recorded and then deleted like right after I posted them, because I could see myself just like playing right into the game that so many are playing. So I'll share that with you in just a bit. But I want to remind you that the Shine Bright Summer Study starts June 1st. I wish I had the copy of the book. I meant to bring it with me, but Shine Bright, 60 Days to Becoming a Girl Defined by God is our new devotional. If you haven't grabbed a copy, you're going to want to grab a copy because you're going to get the most out of the summer study if you have the devotional. So starting June 1st, go to girldefined.com/shine. You do have to sign up. It's totally free, but you do have to sign up in order to be invited and entered into the group. And we're going to start June 1st, and we're going to work all the way through the 60-day devotional. So even if you haven't, if you are already into it, that's great. Just you can join along with us. There's going to be weekly lives, daily encouragement, conversations, discussions, just a whole awesome experience. So if you want a summer book club, go to girldefined.com/shine, get all the details, and make sure to grab a copy of Shine Bright before June 1st so that you can fully participate. Okay, social media. It was actually this past weekend, my sister Rebecca, so my younger sister Rebecca and I were discussing just the whole, I don't know, all that's happening in our modern day, all the cancel culture, just the way that everyone kind of rises up and goes after someone and cries out for brands to drop them because they kind of like disagree with their worldview. So we were talking about all of that and sharing our thoughts on that. And then we were talking about the difference of discussing an idea and discussing a worldview, and then being downright just cruel. So I guess we were discussing like, say you disagree with someone, say you disagree with us, Girl Defined, say it's on womanhood and femininity, and you're like, I hate the way that they talk about that, or I disagree with them, and here's my perspective, and I disagree with your perspective, and you're sharing your perspective, and I don't agree with it, here's my perspective. There's that, but then there's also like, I disagree with you, and you're ugly, and your nose is weird, and you look terrible, and your family sucks, you know? There's a whole new level of going after someone personally, the way they look, their family, you know, using personal pain in their life as like a way to get at them. And so that to me is like a whole new level. And then you have people who are just straight up trolling, people who, I don't even know who these people are. They just hop into your inbox and say like, copy and paste the same mean things and send them to multiple people. Like I have people on Instagram, we're not even like connected, you know, like we're like Instagram friends. And they've sent me like, hey, you might want to block this person. Like here's a whole bunch of cruel stuff. And I'm like, I literally got the exact same message. So I don't know if they're just like copying and pasting. So that's a whole nother level. And then you have people who just follow the crowd. Say someone's like, oh, this person's the worst. And so they go and gather together and rally with the troops and just go comment awful, horrible things. And maybe they think it's just like innocent and fun and games. Like, oh, I'm not that serious, but they're actually saying really cruel things. Anyways, all that to say, I feel like that's kind of what's out there right now on social media. And who I'm talking to in this video are the Christian young women and women who are called to live by a different standard and are called to communicate what they believe is truth according to God's word in a way that isn't mean and vilifying and like tearing someone down as far as like their family, the way they look, going like after them. Like I think that's what I want to talk about. Not necessarily not sharing your perspective and not sharing your worldview, but like not joining in with the crowd and going and trolling and bullying and like going and commenting on someone's post like, oh, you're the ugliest person or your family sucks, you know, stuff like that. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So my story that I want to share, I was posting some stories last week on my Instagram, and I was sharing about my thoughts on abortion, and I was sharing just as a Christian that I value life from the moment of conception, and was just sharing what abortion actually is medically, and I was sharing stories of women who were encouraged to get abortions or pressured to get abortions and where they are now. I was sharing a video of a baby born at 24 weeks and just how beautiful life is and all of that. Anyways, so clearly there was a lot of feedback, really positive and really negative. Really positive were people who agree and think that abortion should not exist and think it's evil and cruel to kill babies, which is the side I stand on. And then people who say, well, if the baby's not going to make it or it's not wanted, why should we have it? And all of that. So what happened after that was more of people who weren't really interested in an honest conversation or to say, hey, here's what I think, you think, but here's what I think, and maybe you should think about it from this perspective. There were people who came on and we had great discussions, and there were people who sent DMs that weren't filled with just cruel, mean words, but actually shared their perspective. And I appreciated that. And I really, read those messages and took to heart what their perspective is and their viewpoints were. But I was starting to get a bunch of messages from people who were intentionally missing the point of what I was saying, were taking everything that I was saying and turning it in and talking about something totally different. And then they were pulling different aspects of my family's life and people in my family who have genuine pain and hurt and loss, and they were trying to use that as like a weapon against me. And so I basically posted something and said, if you ever talk about my family in a negative way, in a hurtful way, you're going to be blocked right away, which I still stand by. But then I posted a couple of stories and was basically wanting to share my thoughts on how in my natural fleshly self, what I think about people who try to use people's hurt and pain against them. So use something very painful in their life to use it as like a weapon against them. And so I won't say what I was going to share because that would be actually posting it. So I recorded what I was wanting to share in like my sinful, natural, fleshly self. And right away, I just felt really convicted about it and deleted it immediately. It was maybe up for like literally 30 seconds. And I know when you post stuff, it's alive forever. So it might be living somewhere. But the point is that I felt really convicted about what I posted because I really felt that my words were not honoring to God, and I wasn't trying to share my worldview or truth or perspective about God. I was wanting to kind of like go after the people who I felt were using pain in my life in a really cruel way. And I just, I wanted them to know what I really thought. And I felt like, well, fight fire with fire, sort of thing. But a verse that came to mind that I want to share with you is something that I want to be more true of how I share and how I speak on social media. And this is what I want to challenge you as you in as well. So if you go to Philippians 4:8 and 9, it says this: finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. So first off, the command of what we're supposed to think about. And my thoughts in that moment were not pure. They were not true. They might have been true in the sense that, yeah, it is cruel to use people's pain, but I wasn't speaking in a way that was honorable or kind or pure or lovely or commendable. I was speaking out of my fleshly side and just going with how I felt. So that was my first conviction. And then the second verse that I was thinking of, kind of a passage, was from 1 Corinthians 13, the fruits of the Spirit. And that says, if I can find it. Okay, the fruits of the Spirit. Love is patient, love is kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. And the passage goes on. And I do not think that my words that I was wanting to share were patient and kind. I think they were arrogant and rude. And I wasn't bearing all things or believing all things. I was doing the opposite of that. And I think that's what I have felt convicted about and what I want to challenge you in as well. when you are engaging online, I don't care what anyone else is doing. I'm not saying like go back on truth or don't speak what you truly believe God's word is saying. People are going to find messages about biblical manhood, womanhood, biblical marriage, who Jesus is, who he calls us to be. Those things are going to be offensive, but how we speak about that and how we interact and engage in discussion about that is a totally different story. And then also how we interact when someone we say we don't like or we disagree with. What's our response in the comments? Who are you sending message DMs to people saying like, you're the worst, I hope something terrible happens to your family? I think that's the part that we need to really be reflective and ask ourselves and ask God to convict us of anything that is not truly loving. It's loving to speak truth, but it's not loving to tell someone like, I totally disagree with your worldview, and by the way, your eyes are too close together and your lips don't exist and your family is the ugliest family I've ever seen. That's not loving. Like, why add that on at the end? That is not going to produce anything good. That is not the fruit of the Spirit. That is not Philippians 4, 8, and 9. One more passage a verse I want to share with you comes from Psalm 19:14, and it says, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. And I think that really should be our prayer when it comes to bullying, online harassment, cancel culture. Let's be accountable to God for the words that we speak. Not saying lesson on truth. We're still going to say a lot of things that we believe are true and people aren't going to like it, but I'm saying the way and what we're thinking and our intention with those words. Psalm 19:14, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. So I just want to challenge you. I want to challenge me to let that be our prayer and to challenge us to live by a higher standard and to not engage in trolling, bullying, to not go after people just because we disagree with their worldview, to not engage in kind of like this super cruel parody kind of, YouTubing and all of that. Like, I think that only divides in a way that it's just like totally unnecessary, and I think it can pass off as funny or comedy or whatever, but it's like, as Christians, let's live to a higher standard and let's not just engage in things because we're going to get more views. This is something I am actively working on, so I have not been perfect in this area, and that's part of this is a confession. But I am praying that the words of my heart and the mouth and the meditations of my heart will be acceptable in God's sight. I can't do it without him, but that's my prayer. Thank you so much for joining in this open, honest, and vulnerable conversation. Please head over to patreon.com/girldefined. Help us get to 500 supporters. Once we do, we're giving a huge giveaway. It's going to be amazing, all-inclusive trip to San Antonio for you and your bestie. Read all about it on patreon.com/girldefined. And yeah, let's keep this discussion going. I want to hear your thoughts on bullying, cancel culture, trolling. Leave a comment below letting me know what you think and if you've ever engaged in it.